Morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Monday, August the 25th. It's the last week of August. We have a lot of things to kind of go over this week. We do have NVDA earnings, which should be exciting. We have so many other things to talk about here as well. We'll talk about the economic calendar, everything else. Before we hop onto the charts and before we do that, good morning, everyone. What's up? Good morning. What's up, KO? Congrats on the limb. What's up? Appreciate that. What's up? Hey, what's up, Jeff? JT, good morning. Hard Tick, Ryan, Victor, Monty, Nontali, Joseph, Detecto, Paulo, Daniel, Martin, 50, Chella, Mozzie. What's up, Zhang? What's up, What's up, 2D, Robert, Audrey, Chris, Wayne, Darth, Caroline. What's up, Casanova, Arnold? Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's hop straight into the weekly outlook. I did a very rough weekly outlook. If you guys haven't taken a look at this, but I'll go a little bit more in depth here and what we're looking for coming into this week specifically. As for the weekly outlook for this week, key economic events and what we do have. As you can see, not too much red folder this week. For Monday, we do have some new home sales, not a red folder news event. Tuesday, we do have consumer confidence at 10 a.m. Usually they do upgrade this to red folder, so we'll see if that happens. But this is going to be a key event tomorrow, consumer confidence at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we also have Thursday, unemployment as per usual, plus the prelim GDP. And then we have a Fed speaker speaking later into the later into the day. And then on Friday, we do have core PC plus consumer sentiment. So not too much red folder news events coming into this week. The main thing that we do have is going to be NVIDIA earnings. So as you can see here for the earnings calendar, we still have a few earnings left. The main one now is going to be NVIDIA. So this is really going to be the main one most names are going to be waiting for, especially on the semiconductor side. So we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA. This is going to be Wednesday after close. As for the rest of the names, you can see we have a bit of a couple smaller ones, right? Alibaba, Marvel. You also have Snow on Wednesday as well, CrowdStrike, a couple other ones. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to trade some of these names. All right. Let's hop right into the charts and we'll get started here. So first things first, let's go on to the ES. As you can see, on Friday, we ended up having a really big push towards the upside. This was due to Jackson Hole. We had this really nice continuation higher. As you can see, we're close back towards our all-time highs level. So ES, number one, is for sure the strongest compared to the NQ. So you can see really nice push towards the upside. Now what we're going to be looking for primarily here on the ES, my key levels that I have marked out is really the 6465. So if we go into the 1 hour chart, this is the level I'd personally like to see hold your previous all-time highs here back from July for continuation towards the upside. So you can see nice kind of double bottom here on the ES, continuation towards the upside. In my opinion, I like to see the hold of this 6465. If you can maintain above this level, we can see this push up and towards your Friday's highs and potentially your all-time highs, 6510. So this is going to be the key level for me coming into today here for the ES. What I really don't want to see happen is consolidation, break back underneath, because we do have this pretty big move towards the downside if we break key levels of support. So this is the area that we broke out from with that Jackson Hole event. So if we break underneath this key level, there's very little volume here, right? We can have a potential reversal in play here for the overall indices. So we'll keep an eye out on this 6465 coming into today here for the ES. As you can see, down close candle here as well. So this is your exact level of support, plus a couple of reactions here in the pre-market. So that's going to be the key level for the ES coming into today. As for the SPY, similar thing here. What I actually have for the SPY is going to be the 644. So as you can see right here, we just recently hit your all-time highs on Friday. On the SPY chart, you can see multiple touches. What I'd like to see now for the SPY is a potential cup and handle, right? If you can cup and handle, right, higher lows be built, maintain above 644, we can see this nice continuation back up and towards your highs. As for SPY currently, the key level 644, you can see multiple touches, also this key level here as well. We have another level which we can mark out, which is going to be this 642.50. So for the SPY coming into today, we have two scenarios that we're going to be looking for. Right, dip down in towards your 642.50, push back up and towards the upside. Another scenario, reclaim back above your 644, hold for this push up and towards your all-time highs. Or if it showed a lot of strength, this is not really in play, but break above your 646.50 all-time highs for this continued push back towards the upside. So at least for the long side, these are the scenarios that we can have played out. I would like to see really it's going to be the reclaim back above your 644 for this continued push back up and towards your previous day highs and above. As for some downside, right, overall market is very bullish. There is a possibility where we could see a reversal. That's only going to take place if markets show a lot of weakness now and get underneath this 642.50. So for the SPY and the ES, right, higher time frame for me is still very much intact for continuation higher. If we are looking for some more downside, right, NQ is definitely the weaker indice here. So if we're going to short anything, we're going to short the NQ. If you want a long, primarily we're going to be looking for longs on the ES. So for the NQ, you can see the difference between this compared to the ES. As you can see, the ES, higher lows are being built. This one's back at your all-time highs level, whereas the NQ, I'd consider this one more in the middle of the range. As you can see, higher lows are still being built, but this one's definitely consolidating a little bit more. If we're drawing out August price action, you can see we've had a lot of volatility this month, but there's not really a clear direction on the higher time frame. So if you watch my video and what I talked about on Saturday, right, kind of the higher time frames, there's not really a bias here on the NQ. Then we have to go into lower time frames to essentially form a narrative. So coming into today here for the NQ, I have the drawings out now. You can see a nice push towards the upside. We did even come up to the area that we dropped down from, but this is essentially your low all the way back from August the 12th. This is a very key level here for the NQ. So we can have this level drawn out, which is our 23,640. And then towards the downside, the key level now is essentially the area we broke out from the event that we had on Friday, which is our 23,400. So coming into today here for the NQ, you can see much weaker than the ES. What I like to see is really now going to be the reaction that we have off the area that we broke out from 23,400. This can be an area that we look for a bounce back towards the upside, or we're going to be looking for the push above your Friday's highs and a hold above your Friday's highs for a continuation towards the upside. So that's what we have here for the NQ coming into today. Other levels that we can have marked out as well is now essentially just going to be your Friday's highs, and then we can just draw your pre-market levels if you'd like. So we can draw this. Another key level, which is going to be this 23,500 pre-market, multiple touches. So if markets stay heavy, right underneath your 23,500, if you like to see some upside bounce off your 23,380, or now it's going to be the reclaim back above this 23,500 for continuation back towards upside. As for the QQQ, as you can see, the keys in this case, key levels that we have marked out, 571. So this one you can see, as I mentioned, SPY is a lot more bullish here than the QQQ. Just by looking at this, you can see the keys essentially back inside the middle of yesterday's range. Back inside Friday's range. And whereas the SPY, right, we're closer to, right, your 644. So for the QQQ coming into today, key levels that we have marked out, 571. This is going to be your key level. If we reject off this level, we can expect it to be inside of its previous day's range. We did have a really big push here on Friday. The range was fairly big on Friday as well on both the major indices. So I wouldn't be surprised, right, with no red folder news today, potential kind of inside bar day on the major indices themselves. But what I'd like to see here for the keys personally is now the reclaim back above your 571. Reclaim back above your 571 for longs for this potential pushback towards the upside. As I mentioned, if we would just reject, we could see this inside bar day play out here for the SPY and the Qs. Okay, now I'm going to go over some tech names that we have and some of my watches that I'm coming into today. Let me go over these ones, and then I'll go over some other charts here. So first things first, what I have is Tesla. Let's just zoom out here. Tesla, a lot of volume kind of came in here on Friday. We still are forming this higher time frame wedge pattern. So higher time frame, just still a lot of consolidation here on Tesla the past really 20 to 40 sessions. What I would like to see is right break above or break below here on Tesla. But key levels that we have marked out coming into today on the 1 hour time frame is going to be this this 340. So as you can see here for Tesla, key level is going to be this 340. We have multiple touches. This is also your Monday's highs from last week along with your Friday's highs. Key level is going to be the reclaim back above your 340 for this potential push up and towards that 346. So we'll keep an eye out on Tesla coming into today for a move towards the upside. This one's definitely a little bit stronger compared to the SPY, compared to the QQQ. Tesla's closer to your previous day high. So in this case, we're now going to be looking for the previous day high reclaim for this continued push towards upside. We can actually refine this level up and towards the exact level, which is going to be your Tuesday's highs along with your previous day high. So key level 340 here for me here on Tesla. Push above your 340, continuation towards upside, or if it consolidates right off the bat, break above 340 later into the session. So that's what we'll keep an eye out on coming into today here for Tesla. 340 is going to be your key level. Let's go on to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA does have earnings this week, as I mentioned, on Wednesday after close. On the higher time frames, this one looks really good for me for continuation higher. So you can see here for NVIDIA, higher lows are still very much intact. You can see we came down into a key level support last week. Buyers kind of stepped in right off this 170. Now what I like to see is this continue push back up and towards the highs. So you can see here, swept this low 170. Higher time frames are still intact. We do have this flat top break. So with earnings coming up this week, potentially we can see a little bit of a move before earnings, but this is going to be the key level. I like to see this push up and towards your all-time high. So for NVIDIA, if we now go back onto the lower time frames, we have a couple key levels on this ticker. Number one, 176.50. Another level that we have here as well is going to be this 180. So I'd like to see one of two things, right? The maintain above your 176.50 for this push up and towards your 180. Or if we show a lot of strength right off the bat, we could be looking for the hold above 180 for this potential push back up and towards your 183 and this 184 here on the higher time frame. So that's what I have for NVIDIA coming into today. We do have to be cautious, as I mentioned, just because we do have earnings that is going to be on Wednesday. So IV is definitely going to be a little bit juiced up on this ticker. All right, let's go into AMD. So AMD is just going to consolidate most likely with NVIDIA before earnings. But the key levels we have essentially is this down close candle, 160. You can see that's the low of the range. Buyers are stepping in. Levels that I have marked out here on AMD coming into today is going to be your previous day highs 169. We also have your 166 here as well. So for longs above your 169 for a continuation towards the upside. Right now currently staying heavy, so I'd be a little bit more cautious if it maintains underneath your 169 or even can get underneath this 166.30. There is a potential that we could see a little bit more continuation towards the the downside actually. Let me grab some water here. So yeah, that's what we have here on AMD. Key level is going to be this 166.30 along with this previous day highs pivot point. As for Meta, key levels that we have, it recently came off all-time highs. We're just coming back into this previous retest level. So this is your previous resistance now turning into support. What I like to see now is buyers step in, which as you can see currently here on Friday for a pushback towards the upside. What I like to see now here on Meta is really the reclaim back above your previous day high. So you can see we have multiple touches here along with this key level as well, which is your 762. I would like to see Meta push really all the way back up towards your 762. If you can get back above your previous day highs, we can see a push up and towards this 762. If we get underneath this level now, which is going to be this 750, potentially Meta could see some more downside here underneath 750, which is a very key level from last week. So you can actually mark this out. 750 here on Meta coming into this morning is going to be key, along with this 762. So we'll keep an eye out on those levels. As for Apple, key level you can see is this 225 here, higher time frame, down close candle, and key level of support, which you can see Apple starting to bounce from on Friday. This one has to reclaim back above your 229 if you want to see any sort of continuation. So you can see price essentially consolidated in this general area. You can see buyers kind of stepping in, broke underneath, and now you can see it's actually retesting this level for a potential move back towards the downside. So for Apple, if we want to see upside, the levels are clear. Previous day highs reclaim back above your 229. So far, Apple is showing a little bit more relative weakness here in the pre-market. The key levels that we can have marked out now is number one going to be your previous day lows. We can draw this level, previous day lows, along with your Thursday's highs. And then we can also mark out your Thursday's lows from last week. So this is the level that we can have marked out. What I like to see here for Apple coming into today is really the reaction that we have off this level. If we get underneath your 226.50, potentially we can see your Friday's lows and then all the way down in towards your Thursday's lows. As for long side, I really only like it above, right, 229, right? 229 is going to be key for Apple. So keep an eye out on this ticker. As for Google, recently hit all-time highs. Finally, after really just consolidating for the better part of the last whole month, but we finally hit all-time highs here on Google. This one, key level now is going to be your all-time highs, 208.50 for continuation towards the upside. As for the rest of the tickers, Microsoft's still staying heavy. So still staying heavy underneath this earnings low, as you can see. So Microsoft is going to be a name you're going to keep an eye out on if you want to see continuation lower, or if the indices wants to show weakness. Microsoft, you personally now like to see it underneath your 504 for more continuation towards the downside. As for Amazon, key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 228.50. You like to see the reclaim back above that level for continuation towards the upside. Currently, you can see a little bit of reaction. If we end up fading off your 228.50, we have a lot more room towards the downside. So coming into today, right, for the major indices themselves, right, SPY is definitely the strongest one compared to the Qs. We'd like to see that first dip get bought up here on the SPY and the Qs after having this nice push on Friday. So we'll see the reaction really within the first 10 to 15 minutes. My favorite chart is primarily going to be Tesla with its higher time frame potential setting up on Tesla. As I mentioned, this wedge pattern could be forming. If we can break, we can see a nice push here on Tesla. So we'll keep an eye on that one really coming into this week if we do want to see continuation higher. And then really for the rest of the tickers, at least for NVIDIA, we'll keep an eye out on upside as well. This one does have earnings. So we'll keep that in mind if we are trading this name. And then for the rest of the tickers, it's really just going to be primarily based off of the QQQ and intraday setups as well. Awesome. All right. I'll go over some charts here now for really the next 10 to 20 minutes. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can drop them in the chat now. Yeah, let me grab some water here. All right. If you guys have any charts or tickers, you guys can drop them in the chat now. I'll go over them. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop me a like. Also, if you guys haven't joined the watch list that I post every single morning, that is also in the description as well. All right. Let's go over some charts here. Good morning. What's up, everyone? After watching your video last week on order blocks, I have a question for day trading. Do you mark out the order block on the 1 or 5 minute? I like marking out order blocks on the 1 minute. If I'm on the 5 minute chart, I'll mark them out on the 5 minute. So we'll use both 1 minute and 5 minute order blocks. We'll use 5 minute order blocks more like later into the session, really after 10 o'clock. Really, all you need when you're trading order blocks is a trend. So if there's a trend on the 1 minute, you can use that. If there's a trend on the 5 minute, you can also use that as well. All right, let's see. You have major skills, first time here, watching all your videos. Love your style, appreciate that. All right, let's go over some tickers here. Let me scroll down. For NVIDIA, do you want to buy before earnings or when you should do that close tomorrow? Only if you're planning to hold for an earnings play. A lot of times the best trades will occur after earnings. So anything you trade beforehand are primarily going to be day trades and is on lighter size because the IV is going to be juiced up. But once after earnings occurs, that's when you could be looking for, right, the real move after earnings. All right, so for Palantir, key level that we have marked out is this 145. So we talked about this level, right? If we're on the weekly time frame, this is our down close candle. This is also our retest level here, right? Weekly order block. We talked about Palantir, right? Buyers potentially stepping in off this 145. This was a really nice gap fill reversal, right? We ended up shorting this last week. Gap fill reversal back towards the downside. This was definitely the leader with relative weakness. Now I could see some buyers stepping in here right off that 145 higher time frame key pivot level. We can actually just remove that. But key levels now for Palantir is just going to be your previous day highs along with your previous day lows. We can also draw at this level here as well, which is essentially going to be this 156. So for Palantir, right, you have multiple touches in this general area, right? Multiple touches. You can see Thursday's price action, then Friday's price action once we got above, right? Nice continuation towards the upside. So you can have this level marked out 156 along with this 157 for Palantir. If you want to see downside, get underneath this 156. We can see this previous day lows. If you want to see some upside, it's going to be a little bit more difficult after having such a big push lower. But for Palantir, you just like to see a little bit of consolidation, potential mean reversion back up and towards this 159. So for Palantir, definitely a little bit more neutral now after having a really big push lower. You can see if you just mark it out from swing high to swing low, we're basically right in the middle. So any trades that you're taking here are just going to be, right, day trades, scalps, just looking for either your previous day highs or your previous day lows. So Palantir 156, 157 is the key level we have marked out. All right, as you can see here for Hood, key levels that we have marked out here as well is this very higher low key pivot point. So you can see multiple touches. Hood, I'd like to see now this push back up and towards your all-time highs. This one still stayed very strong compared to the overall indices. Hasn't really showed too much relative weakness, right? Every single dip has been bought up on Hood. And you can see now we're reclaiming back above key levels here as well, which is your 107. So nice push here on Friday. Now we kind of faded back down in towards this 107. What I like to see, buyers step in. If you want to see any sort of continuous push back up in towards your previous day highs, if you consolidate, get back underneath your 107, we can see a push back down in towards your previous day lows. So that's what we have here for Hood coming into today. So it's going to be this 107. And we can mark out, right, previous day highs along with this previous day lows. As for UNH, this one had news a few weeks ago, still holding up compared to the overall market. Now you can see the markets are bouncing here as well. So for UNH, this one I do like for this push back up now towards this 316. So you can see we have a couple key levels marked out on UNH. We have our 307 coming into today, along with this 316. And then you can also mark out your previous day highs, which is going to be this 310. So you can mark out your previous day highs, drag this one over. As you can see coming to this morning, what I like to see here for UNH, higher lows are being built. The push above your 310 hold for this push up and towards potentially your 316. So keep an eye out on UNH coming into today for the break above your previous day highs for continuation. Let me scroll down here as well. There's a decent amount. Hood and Palantir went over that. So let's see BABA. So BABA gapped up overnight here as well. Sorry, over the weekend. Key levels for BABA, you'll see BABA a lot of times has these big daily gaps on the chart. And it'll have these daily gaps just because, right, it's traded on another exchange as well. So that's why you have such these big gaps. So for BABA, the key levels that we have is going to be this 128. And then we also have your 130. So BABA, big gap, and we have another big gap towards the upside above your 128. What we like to see is now one of two things, right? Break above this gap, 128 for potential move up and towards this 130. Another scenario is, right, opening drive, dip and rip for a push up and towards your 128 as well. So other levels we can have marked out, essentially your pre-market lows. So pre-market lows, and then we could draw your pre-market highs, which is going to be this 128 key pivot level. So we can do this and drag that over. And then we also have this 126. So BABA key levels, you're just going to mark out 128 along with your pre-market lows 126. And you're going to be looking for the reaction around these levels, preferably above your 128. You can see continuation. IWM. So IWM, you can see really nice reclaim, push towards the upside here. If we're looking at this on the daily chart along with the Dow, you can see this one had a really strong push up. Next level is your all-time highs here for IWM. So higher lows being built. We had news pushing this higher as well. Now the next level that we have on the chart, we're gonna have to mark to the left. So for IWM, we can mark out this level, which is our 233. And we have other levels marked out, which is our 235.74. So we go back onto the lower time frames here for IWM. Coming into today, this one looks really good compared to the SPY and the Qs. Has a lot of relative strength. You can see if you're looking at the QQQ or if you're looking at the SPY, these ones are pulling back a little bit here in the pre-market, whereas IWM is holding up. This is your down close candle that you're going to have marked out along with this 233. What I would like to see here on IWM is really the hold of your 233 for this push up and towards your 235 here and above. So key level for IWM, down close candle that you're going to have marked out here on the 15-minute time frame. As for Coinbase, a lot of these ones, after having this big push lower, you can see Bitcoin pulling back as well, along with MSTR. Just a lot more consolidation in the past, really 20 to 40 sessions. If you look at this daily chart, we're kind of just basing around this general level now, which is essentially your retest level that we broke out from. If you kind of zoom out, for coin now, what we're just going to have marked out is this. If you can break back above your 340, you can see this push back up and towards your 380. And if you break underneath, then you can see a little bit more continuation towards the downside, at least on the daily time frame. Go back onto the 1 hour chart, at least coming into today. Let's just kind of remove a few levels here. For coin, the levels I'm going to have marked out is your high that we created on Wednesday along with Thursday. And then, yeah, this one's just consolidating a little bit more. So key levels, now we can also mark out your previous day highs along with this high here as well. So right in between the middle of the range, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to trade. I'll probably hold off on trading coin, at least intraday. And then on the higher time frames, we're going to have to get that really nice reclaim back above now your 322 at a minimum. All right, let me scroll down here. AVGO. So AVGO, this one, a lot of these semiconductors, I'll be a little bit more cautious on semis. Let's go over SMH real quick. So this is a semiconductor ETF. This one, you can see bouncing off key levels of support. That's why NVDA bounced and the rest of the semis are bouncing here as well. NVIDIA does have earnings this week on Wednesday. So this is going to be a huge driving force for the rest of the semiconductors. So AMD, you have AVGO, MU, TSM, all these major semiconductors are going to have, it's going to basically have a big reaction along with NVIDIA as well, since NVIDIA is the leader of the semis. So for SMH, you can see just a lot more consolidation in the past 20 to 40 sessions. So that's why semiconductors, you've had some trades, but at least in August, we haven't really done too much. For SMH now, the key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be this 298. So this 298 level is essentially the level that we broke down from, as you can see right here. Sorry, 297. What we now like to see for some upside, break above your 298 for this continued push towards the upside. Other levels going to be this 293 and then all the way back down in towards that 288. So for SMH in itself, that's what we have, just a lot more consolidation. So most likely the semis are going to basically consolidate until that NVIDIA earnings. And then once we have NVIDIA earnings, we'll probably have a lot more clear direction on the overall semis. All right, MSTR. So yeah, for MSTR, this one's actually retesting its previous low here. So we'll keep an eye on MSTR. You can see previous level of support now potentially turning into resistance here off your 360. If it rejects off this level, we can now see continuation lower towards the downside. So currently you can see for MSTR, we are actually rejecting off of this 360 key pivot point. Also the area that we broke down from. So let's actually just refine this level. which is this 360. Now the key level, as you can see, after this big push higher is also going to be this 344. So for MSTR, if you maintain underneath this 344, you can see a potential push down towards this 334. If you can reclaim back above your 344, we can see just a mean reversion back in between yesterday's range. So pretty big range from yesterday. Key level is going to be this 344. Core Weave CRWV. So for CRWV, you can see some buyers kind of stepping in, but ultimately this one had earnings, dropping this towards the downside. Recent IPO, these ones had a bigger pullback. Now key levels is going to be this 95. So 95 key cycle level here for CRWV. Primarily now for this ticker, you can see most pops have just been shorted. If you do want to see continuation lower, maintain now underneath 95 for a push towards the downside. If you want to see any sort of strength, reclaim back above 95. And now I'd like to see kind of the reclaim back above this 100 key cycle. All right. Let's see. When price is above your take profit level, when do you exit? You're going to mark out other key levels. You can bar by bar. There's many ways to manage a position, but primarily you're just going to be looking at the next key level above or the next key level below. Thanks for your morning breakdown. Great video on Saturday. Appreciate that. Let's see what else. Open. We can take a look at this one. So this one, it's primarily penny stock, but this one now gravitating towards the upside. We talked about this one here on last week, right? Breaking out towards the upside, holding above key levels. Now you can see nice push here on Friday, taking out this key high. So what you like to see is now maintain above this right here, which is your 480 along with this 5 key cycle levels. So this is your Friday's key high. As long as you can maintain above 5, we can see this dip and rip for this continued push back towards upside. Next levels is going to be your 539 and then all the way back up and towards 630. So we can have these levels marked out. 540 along with this 630. Okay. Let me scroll down here. What are the 4 main pairs that you're trading today? Drop some likes. Have you ever dabbled into small caps? I personally used to trade small caps. That's what I started off as, small caps, and then I transitioned over into large caps and primarily trading options and futures. Okay, I'll go over a couple more tickers here, and then I'll develop my game plan once more, and then I will get ready for market open here. So for HIMS, this one's just staying heavy. So a couple of these names that are just staying heavy, like HIMS, if we remove all this, right, it's a little bit better to see now on the daily chart. But basically, we had this really nice push higher, then with earnings, kind of dropped this towards the downside. Now your key level support is really this 42. So far, we have your 42, and then you also have your 48. What you like to see on the daily time frame is either now the drop underneath your 42 for continuation, or you like to see kind of this pop up in towards your 48, potential fade back towards the downside. So for HIMS, key levels that we do have marked out is number one, we have a couple levels. Primarily, it's our 4450, which you can see we have multiple touches, along with this 4550 here as well. So for HIMS, let me actually just remove a few things, make it a little bit more cleaner here. So for HIMS, key levels that we have coming into today is really just going to be this 4550. And then we can also mark out now, it's going to be this from back here. So it's going to be this, which is your 4420. So for HIMS, if you want to see downside underneath your 4420s for a potential move down in towards your 4260s, upside, you're going to have to reclaim back above your previous day highs. Let's see. The watch list, that one's in the description. So that one's the WAP. If you join the free community, that's where the watch list is. Thanks for all the insight. Gambling is earnings are gambling, playing stuff. Yeah, I agree. Like earnings, it can go either way. Sometimes if you can develop positions before earnings, but a lot of times it can go either way. I would not open up a position the day before earnings, right? Maybe if you have a position built a few days before earnings or maybe a few weeks, it's a little bit different, but the day before earnings and specifically an earnings trade, that one, very difficult, especially a lot of times you're going to lose just because the IV is juiced up. What do you mean juiced up on the IV? What is the threshold? Because the IV goes higher. So whenever the IV is higher, it's essentially just implied volatility. So it's expecting a big move, which makes sense because if you have a news event coming up, you're expecting a big move. So a lot of times, let's say NVIDIA, the implied move is, let's say 7%, for example. So if the move is implied 7% here on NVIDIA, that means you'd have to go up or down 7% in order for you to make money on the calls and puts, especially if you buy the day before. So if it moves less than 7% or it doesn't move at all, then you're going to get crushed on the contracts. Majority of the times, I'd say 90% of the times, you're just going to wait for an after earnings play. Okay. Yeah, we'll go over on SoFi here as well. So SoFi, what we have in this case is the final break. So SoFi, I've been talking about this for a while now. So as you can see here for SoFi, we've been talking about this ticker along with Hood for a potential push up and towards your all-time highs, right? SoFi, I mentioned as well that this one could be the leader back towards the upside as long as the markets basically consolidate or potentially have a bounce. This one is for sure going to be the leader just because higher lows are being built, consolidation, clear levels of resistance, multiple touches, right? Liquidity being built up. What I'd like to see is a break above 25 for a potential move up and towards your all-time highs and above. So you can see SoFi here. If I now go back onto the lower time frames, right? A lot of volume came in. So you can see rejection last week, but really nice reclaim for SoFi now. This one looks good for now a push back up and towards 28.24, which is going to be your all-time highs here on this ticker. So now what we can have marked out is really this. We can actually draw this out once more, drag it over up into right towards that down close candle. So now we can remove a few things here. Let me actually just remove all this. So for SoFi now, key levels I have marked out, 25 key psych level, you can see multiple touches. Now, if we get above and maintain above your 25.50, this one could have a really explosive move towards the upside. So we'll keep an eye on SoFi above. Now it's going to be this 25 key psych level. So keep that in mind for a continuation back towards the upside. Okay. Let's go over a few more tickers and then I will develop my game plan coming to today. Yeah, Bull is just consolidating recent IPO. Not too much has happened here. So we'll have this for Bull key levels that we have. Yeah, just a lot of consolidation here. We'll see if it eventually moves back higher. It's actually hard to mark out this chart, but key level consolidation, kind of just zoom out. Yeah, bull kind of basing here. We'll see if it eventually starts pushing back towards the upside. These IPO, whenever you do consolidate after this big push higher, it usually takes a while. So we'll see what happens here for bull. Unless we do have a major news event coming up, I'll be a little bit more cautious on this one. And then I'll go over one more and then I will develop my game plan. So for INTC, right, Intel, this one had news over the weekend. Key levels now for Intel is going to be your 25 key psych level, right? With the recent news that we have, the key levels for Intel is going to be this 2560, right? 2560 potential move towards upside. With the news that we had over the weekend was, as you can see right here, so I'm not sure the news event, but basically the news was the White House, basically US could take a stake, like 10% stake into Intel. So with this being said, right, there's going to be a lot of volatility, a lot of manipulation coming up on, right, Intel, but the key levels for a move, finally, this could be the catalyst that finally moves Intel now. So key levels, keep in mind, right, is going to be your 2560s for a potential move back towards upside. So, all right, let's go on to my game plan and I will call it a day here. So first things first. What we have here is SPY and Qs, right? As I mentioned, for the SPY and Qs, SPY, we're close to all-time highs, right? We recently just hit this key level, having a little bit of rejection off of. Let's see if that first dip gets bought up for a potential move back up in towards your all-time highs. So for these SPY and Qs coming into today, key levels is going to be this 644. And we also have this 642.50 for this potential reclaim push higher or the bounce off your 642.50. As for the QQQ, I'm less bullish on the Qs, but I'm still bullish just based off of the SPY. Key level I'd like to see reclaim is going to be this 571. So that's what I have for the Qs today. My top watches is going to be Tesla just because it does have a higher time frame potential breakout. Key level is going to be the above your 340, above your 340 hold, potentially continuation towards the upside. As for NVIDIA, this one has earnings. So if I do trade this week before earnings, going to be a little bit more cautious pre-earnings, but key level is going to be this 176.50. And we're also going to have this 180 as well. So we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA. As for AMD, I'm actually a little bit less bullish here on AMD. Key level for me is going to be this 166. Potential kind of pop and fade is in play, or if we can reclaim, we can just see this push back up and towards your 168. As for Apple, key levels that we have marked out here is going to be this 229, and then we also have this 226. So for Apple, not as interested in trading this one unless it shows a lot of weakness. Key level for me would have to get underneath 226, hold underneath 226 for this continuation lower. So at least for today, Google is at all-time high, so we can keep an eye out on Google as well for this push back above your 208 hold for this continuation higher. And then for the rest of the tickers, I'm fairly neutral on. So yeah, I'm fairly neutral on. So I'm not looking at too much today, at least right off the bat, because we had such a big move on Friday. The main one, as I mentioned, is just going to be primarily Tesla. Still showing some relative strength here in the pre-market, and then NVIDIA potentially if it can reclaim and hold key levels. So that's what I have coming into today, right? We are closer to the middle of the range on the SPY and Q, so we're going to be a little bit more cautious. No red folder news as well within the first 30 minutes. So we'll just wait for essentially price action to develop. We can also keep an eye out on Hood as well as Palantir. These ones mean reversions in the middle of the range, but we do expect some volatility to still be in these ones as well. So really coming into today, I actually do like UNH. UNH here as well. If we can break above your previous day highs, this one will be on watch. Let me actually just set some alerts here as well for the break above your 310 hold for this continued pushback towards upside. All right. So yeah, that's primarily the game plan coming into today. We're going to be a little bit more cautious within the first 15 to 30 minutes of the overall indices, unless we have a really big push, right? If we consolidate, then there's going to most likely be no trades right off the bat. But if we can have this big push right off the bat within the first like 5 to 10 minutes here on the SPY, then we could be looking for this trade back up and towards your previous day highs and above. So we'll keep that in mind here on the SPY and Qs. As I mentioned, Tesla, keep that in mind here as well, above your previous day highs. So 340.50. Okay. Do we need a retest after these? Yeah. So there's different entry models, but preferably you like to see the retest. Sometimes if you have opening plays, like an opening drive, right, you don't technically need the retest, but majority of the setups are just going to be the retest above your previous day highs, right, around these key levels, which are going to be your old highs and old lows. And then you also have intraday plays as well. Do you have a video marking out levels on the zones? I do, and then primarily they're just gonna be old highs and lows as well. All right, that is going to be it for me today. Yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I'm gonna get ready for market open here now. If you guys did enjoy that, I appreciate if you guys drop me a like and sub. If you guys do want to join the watch list, that one is in the description below as well. If you guys want to live trade with me, that's also in the description as well. All right, that's going to be it for me today, and I will see you guys all tomorrow morning. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.